All right, what is going on, guys? We're back again for day 6. Here we are. A bit of a late recording today, but we're going to get right into it. So, today's topic is how you do anything is how you do everything. And this is something I really try and live by. I've been really trying to live by this, especially lately. I really think this is one of the cornerstones to living a good life. And I think that there's just a lot I could say on this. So I'm just going to kind of riff and just bear with me on this. So, um, first things, back in college, start with a little story here. Back in college, I was in a fraternity, and, there was an instance where all of the pledges, all of our, fraternity brothers, pledges at the time, they played us this recording from the movie Any Given Sunday. I don't know if you guys have seen that movie, but if not, go check it out. I've actually never watched the movie, but you can look up the Any Given Sunday speech, and it'll fire you up. It's really, really inspirational. And the nutshell is, it's a movie about football, and the coach is talking about how life is a game of inches, right? It's football there was the metaphor for football, and he was making a metaphor for life, and that was why, as pledges in a fraternity, they were having us listen to this recording, and it really stuck with me because it was such a powerful. I had never heard it before, and it was such a powerful speech, especially just with no context. In the when we were listening to it, we had absolutely no context for it. It was just out of the blue, and essentially, this guy talks about how life is a game of inches. Football is a game of inches, and life is a game of inches. And what that means is just the little things everywhere around you. There's little things, right? This is what he says in the speech. The inches we need are everywhere around us. If you can just do every little thing in your life, if you can just give a shit about it, and you can just care you could just care, give your full effort. You know what I mean? Get that extra inch. Do it that bit better, right? If you're doing the dishes, don't not wipe up. You know what I mean? Or there's days you cook, you just gotta clean the pan. Just clean the pan right when you're done with it. Like, do it a little bit better. And this doesn't mean be OCD, right? Because perfection, I think, is the enemy of progress, right? And you don't want to be a perfectionist. Here I am with these videos. I used to be a perfectionist with YouTube videos, and what happened was, hey, I don't have any videos recorded. And I do think quality is very important. I think quality is very important. That's why that was my mindset before, where I was like, all right, I don't like these videos. They're not up to a certain quality, so I'm not going to upload these videos. It's going to dilute the brand. And I think the reason I'm doing these this way is because I can make them really fast. It doesn't impede my actual work that I have going on, and the actual value of this videos comes from the talking. It comes from the actual speaking, and a lot of my favorite YouTubers just do it this way, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. So, I think there is something to be said for compromising, right? When necessary, but you have to ask yourself: am I compromising for a reason that actually makes sense? And am I actually, everything's a trade-off, right? Everything's a trade-off in life. Right now, I'm compromising some quality for some quantity, but I think, again, even if I made B-roll edits and stuff throughout these videos, I just don't think it would really add that much to it. And I think it's going to be a lot more valuable of a move to just make a bunch of these, right? So I think compromising is okay sometimes. When it's right, when you're compromising intentionally, but you have to really ask yourself, am I compromising intentionally, or am I just being lazy? And it's a really fine line. It's a really fine line because, one of the last videos I recorded was a few days ago about just your mindset towards working. And I think that a lot of people's mindset towards working, in a nutshell, is I'm going to work so that I can relax. And I think, the way to live a good life is the opposite of that. The way that one ought to live is, no, I am relaxing. So it's the opposite. It's I'm relaxing so that I can work better, right? I'm intentionally relaxing so that I can actually do better work. That's just where you're going to get the most joy is by putting in work and doing things well. And the saying where how you do anything is how you do everything comes in because I think it just programs your mind to be, again, not a perfectionist, but it just programs your mind to just give a shit. Just give a shit about whatever it is you're doing, because if you selectively give a shit, it's not gonna work. It's just not gonna work. Your mind is gonna nag you. Like when I'm on days where I don't get up on time, or I don't, write in my journal, or meditate. Right? You don't have to do this whole big morning routine of habits that people talk about. You don't have to do all that. I really don't think so. Not all the time, at least. Like, yeah, consistency is key, but um you don't it doesn't need to be so OCD, right? Again, it's just there's fine lines everywhere here. There's really fine lines everywhere. But the point is just don't half-ass things. Don't half-ass anything. Don't be lazy. Like, I have like a vague memory of my grandfather. And it was just, I think we were just taking out the trash, and he was like, it was either me or my brother. We just half-assed it. We threw the bag next to the trash can or something outside. And he's like, hey, like, if you're going to do something, do it right. And it's like, that kind of stuck with me. It's like, just do it right. Like, you know how to do it right. It's going to feel way better in that moment when you actually do it right. And the next time, it's just going to build momentum in your brain. It's going to program your brain a certain way so that next time you're faced with resistance, right? I'm going to make a whole separate video on resistance. I think that's a topic in itself. But when you're faced with resistance towards putting work in somewhere, if your mind is programmed already by doing other actions, well with full effort and no laziness, if you have kind of like a track record in your mind of doing that, it's gonna feed into the next action. And yes, it is true. A lot of these things are, you could argue that certain things don't matter. And I've tried to make those arguments in my head before. Something as simple as making your bed, right? It's like, the saying about making your bed, it's like, hey, if you make your bed in the morning and you have a bad day, at least you have a made bed to go back in at the end of the day. Excuse me. At least you have a bed to get back in at the end of the day if you've made it. But I think it's deeper than that. I think it's the first thing you're doing in the day. You're knocking off a task, and it's just you set the tone. Like, you set the tone in an air of like, hey, I'm gonna do this in a way that I know is right. It's better to make your bed than to just leave it all a mess. And then that kind of energy just flows into the next thing. So yeah, I guess that's really it for this idea. Trying to think of other like instances, but I think that pretty much explains it. Just give a shit, and then what you'll find is it's way easier to give a shit when it really does count. That's the thing. Is it doesn't really always count. If your bed's not made, it doesn't really matter. Oh, your clothes aren't folded, it doesn't really matter. But then all those things add up, and then what happens when you're in your actual job, your actual work, your art, the things, I see people doing things, and I guess I'll segue this into work, right? So I'm a videographer, photographer, content creator, right? And I see a lot of people, and there's one thing. It's one thing to not know if you are being lazy, right? It's one thing to not know, because then it's not laziness, right? Then it's just like, oh, I just didn't know how to make this edit any better necessarily, right? If you're editing a video, you can go down to the frame, right? You can go down to the literal frame. If you're not a video editor, you edit 24 frame per second timelines. It's a 24th of a second, right? It's a 24th of a second, and that is the level of detail that you get down to. And I used to, if there was an extra frame there, who cares? No, but no, now it's like every cut that I make, I'm like, could this be a little bit smoother if I drive that clip to the left or to the right a little bit? And that's the level of detail you go. Again, it's inches. It's just inches. Like, how can you be inches better than the guy next to you, right? That's just getting back to the football speech, right? That's why that speech is so relevant, is because you don't need to be that much better. You don't need to be double the guy next to you. You just need to be inches better. And that inches better is a difference. It could be the difference between winning and losing. That could be the difference between you getting picked for a job and someone else getting picked for a job. One thing I like to just stress about going back to video editing is, be so nitpicky. Again, here is not an example where I'm being nitpicky. This is literally just an unedited video of me talking on my FaceTime camera. As I've said, that's just my mindset towards these. But my actual work, right, which is my Instagram and website and the actual the stuff that I care about, the photos I've taken that I would frame and make a photo book and things that I really care about that are like my art. It's like I see, I'm not obviously gonna name off people, right? But I see just so many people where it's like, don't you want this to be better? And again, maybe they don't know necessarily. They're just not as experienced, right? Maybe they just don't know. That's fair. That's totally valid. I don't know if that's the case, but I think a lot of times people kind of take a shortcut, and whether that shortcut is something that they know that they're taking a shortcut, or they're just choosing not to learn something that is obviously going to make their work way better, or like if someone gives them a piece of advice and it's like, hey dude, like you could do it this way instead, it would look better. And I don't know, like I've had people not take that advice, and then I've had people take that advice and they're like, dude, like this made a whole difference, like this leveled my whole thing up. And then they'd show me an edit that they did using the advice that I gave them, and I'm like, yeah, this is like way better. It looks more refined. And the cool thing about editing, I think, is everybody notices the details subconsciously, but editors will consciously notice it, right? So it's like I can watch a video, I can say, oh no, this should be a couple frames to the left. And a normal person who's not an editor could look at that video and say, oh, this one looks smoother to me. I don't really know why, but you get what I'm saying, right? And so if you think about a world where you're running your own business, you technically have competition. I don't really see other video editors as competitors. I think we're all buddies. At the end of the day, it's really small. It's really cool. It's a really small, tight knit industry. But the thing is when you're talking about trying to stand out, when you're talking about trying to get better, when you're talking about quantity over quality, it doesn't need to be double the guy next to you. It doesn't need to be, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. You just need to nail the basics. You just need to gain every little inch that you can, right? And that's kind of the gist of this. So yeah, that's the message. You guys get it at this point. Go out there and just fight for every inch. Go check out that speech. It'll definitely pump you up. That's all for today. Appreciate you guys for listening. Let me know what other topics down in the comments, what other topics you want me to talk about. Shoot me a DM on Instagram if you want to talk. And that's all for today. Peace, guys.